So, with the release of the trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows, I thought of which games in this series I love the most. So, I decided to make this list and rank all of the Assassin's Creed games. And I'll just tell you that I love Assassin's Creed. I loved it when the earlier games released, and they were some of my favorite gaming experiences. I still love the series as a whole, even though I hate seeing what it's becoming and probably already has become. But, anyways, without wasting any time, let's kick this list off. Also, I'll mention it before that this list is about the mainline games in this series. So, yeah, no liberation or freedom cry here. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is by far my least favorite game in the series. It's probably also the only single one I actively dislike. There was just not much to like here for me. I personally thought that the setting, characters, world were pretty dull and uninteresting, especially compared to all the great Vikings media we've had in the last decade or so, like the first four seasons of Vikings on History, The Last Kingdom, or Vinland Saga. I was really excited for this game since I love medieval Viking shit so much. But I remember I was so disappointed when the game came out. Not to mention, this game has god awful open world activities, and that's saying something considering it's a Ubisoft game and the bar for open world activities isn't all that high. And also, the main story just keeps on dragging and dragging. With that said, I didn't hate everything in this game. As always, Ubisoft nailed the art direction and the music, and I absolutely loved the portrayal of Alfred. It reminded me of David Dawson from The Last Kingdom. Now, I won't lie, and I'll admit that I personally really liked Odyssey. And trust me when I say this, that this would have been much higher if this was a ranking of all the Assassin's Creed games as games in general. But it's not that. It's a ranking of them as Assassin's Creed games. As much as I enjoyed Odyssey's beautiful, gorgeous, albeit very bloated world, I can't say that the game made me feel like Assassin's Creed at any time. In fact, it made me feel the opposite. It was like I was playing anti Assassin's Creed, and that, in my opinion, really doesn't help Odyssey. Like I said, the world is gorgeous. I actually think the branching storylines and consequences of making decisions were implemented pretty well, but none of that matters because the fact that Odyssey is a objectively bad Assassin's Creed game. Not much to say here except that it's a decent enough game for its scope. This had a pretty dope premise, but I thought the execution was lacking at times. The gameplay loop is not bad, but it's identical to Black Flag in that regards. Obviously, at the end of the day, as cool as it was to play as a Templar and the great take on the Assassin's Templar conflict, it also added to the ship warfare gameplay from Black Flag and AC3, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I just think Shay and this game needed much more time. Nothing much to say here other than that. I was really interested in Mirage because I got caught up in Ubisoft's lies that they were going back to the roots. Well, not lies, since they did go back to the roots of the franchise, just not in the way I wanted them to. There's a lot to love and a lot to hate here. If you liked Valhalla and wanted a more grounded, tighter, more polished version of that game with a better story like the old times, then you'll like this. But if you wanted the gameplay to be like Unity or AC2 or something, then you will not like this. First off, the best thing about the game, in my opinion, apart from Baghdad, is the incredible OST. In my opinion, it's one of the best original scores in the entire series. It's baffling to me that the score wasn't nominated at the Game Awards last year. I personally also found the dialogue and monologues in this game to be very well written. The only downside was that the characters and story until the final act just didn't make me feel anything, unlike AC2 or Black Flag. Doesn't help that Basim has the charisma of a wooden plank in this game, which I was honestly surprised with because he was one of the better parts of Valhalla. But I'll give them that I didn't see that ending twist coming. I still cannot believe that they pulled a Fight Club in an Assassin's Creed game. Now, this is the game in the series I'm the most conflicted with. So, I think it's fair to rank this between that games I like and the ones I'm not really crazy about. Syndicate had one of the most exciting settings in the series at the time. Victorian London, count me in. Best part, in my opinion, is that they perfectly nailed the setting like most of the times. But I also loved how they managed to adapt the traversal and parkour with the setting. Even though you felt like basically Spider-Man at most times. The story isn't anything great, but it's also not that bad. We have two protagonists here with the ambitious siblings, Jacob and Evie Fry. I personally really liked Evie and I find her to be the best female protagonist in the series out of three. Jacob is, in my opinion, really forgettable, but I didn't hate him as most people seem to. But I can sure understand why they do. Anyways, Syndicate, in my opinion, was a little step in the right direction. Too bad that they lost the whole fucking thing right after it. The first game in the series, the one that started it all. I'd be lying if I don't have the utmost respect for this game, even though it has started to show its age now. With its not very standing gameplay loop, it still has some of the best art design, visual style and atmosphere in the entire series. Altair is still one of the most iconic protagonists in the series. This game also had social stealth. I mean, yeah, of course, it was the first game and it had social stealth, which was a really original creative idea in the stealth genre at the time. And the holy cities Masyaf and Jerusalem are, in my opinion, still pretty memorable. And the Third Crusade is just the perfect time period possible for a game like this. This is the game which was loathed at launch, and rightfully so, but has gathered a cult following since. I have to admit that I'm one of the people that absolutely love Unity. It has almost everything a good Assassin's Creed game needs: a gorgeous and vivid setting, insane social stealth, different ways to go about the stealth encounters and take out your opponents, fluid and responsible combat and parkour, the perfect outfit and weapon system, the best side content with the murder mysteries, except for a gripping and emotional story. That's probably the only thing where this game lacks for me. I was invested until the boss fight with Belek, but after that, the main story just was a slog, and I can barely even remember anything that happened apart from the hot air balloon sequence with Elise. That was dope. But even with its lackluster story, the chemistry between Arno and Elise was on point throughout the game. The game itself, in terms of design, visual fidelity and gameplay mechanics, is almost a masterpiece. It easily has the single best parkour and stealth in the game, both of which are responsive, don't hold your hand, and give you multiple ways to go about them and are extremely fluid and satisfying to do. Not to mention a title card which will give you goosebumps. Okay, the haters can leave cause I love Assassin's Creed 3 with all my heart. This game in general and Connor as a protagonist gets so much undeserved hate. I don't even understand where it all comes from. The combat is flashy with its finishers and counterattacks. They did such a good job of making you feel like an aggressive brute instead of a sneaky and stealthy twink. Connor's dynamic with Haytham is so goated. I'm actually missing playing this game. The ambitious open world and its design, ship combat, and the plethora of things to do, along with the intriguing narrative and running across a fucking battlefield, make it a must play for all AC fans. Yes, I agree that they could have slowed down on telling us exactly what to do and where to go every single time. But apart from that, I don't really have any big complaints from this game. I think that Connor gets overhated on a lot. Yes, of course, he's not Ezio, but that doesn't make him a bad protagonist. And with the AC games we've got since then, he's easily a top 5 in the whole series, and I think he deserved and still deserves a sequel. The first game in the RPG trilogy, and the game which changed this franchise for good. This was when the game didn't lean too much into the RPG mechanics and was just the best of both worlds, roaming the streets and deserts of ancient Egypt, brutalizing soldiers in open combat or in stealth never got old for me. This game has probably my favorite setting and time period in the form of ancient Egypt, which I think is an opinion I share with a lot of other people. Getting to see such great interpretations of figures like Cleopatra or Julius Caesar was a dream come true for me. It also added so much to the lore of the series with little things like how the finger cutting tradition started and how the symbol for the assassins brotherhood was formed. The scene where Bayek throws his Medjay badge on the floor, forming the symbol for the brotherhood, legit gave me goosebumps. And speaking of Bayek, he's such a great protagonist that's haunted by his past mistakes, and the narrative revolves him around the order of the ancients or Templars in ways that will keep you hooked throughout the main story. The open world also, as I mentioned, is one of my favorite ones to navigate in the series. Whether you're walking or parkouring through the streets of Alexandria, or you're riding your camel in the scorching heat of the desert and seeing mirages and illusions, it's all just really satisfying. I love the Ezio trilogy with everything that I have. Even if this is the weakest in that trilogy, it's still one of the best in the series. This game is much superior to AC2 in terms of technical and gameplay aspects. Ezio trying to rebuild the Brotherhood in Rome proved to be such a great and intriguing premise. The Borgias family, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but they were just the perfect antagonist for this story and game. There were also a lot of moments in this game where I realized that this series wasn't just action and stealth oriented games with good stories, that they were much deeper and personal than that. Ezio further developed as a character, and this is where I started to really connect with his story and motives. It's just a banger of a game in every single way. This is one of the most perfect video game sequels out there, along with Mass Effect 2. It not only works on the flaws of its predecessor, but also improves upon them. An already great enough game AC1 was where I liked this series, and I was like, this is great, I like this. But AC2 was where I fell in love with it. I was like, this is incredible. I want more of this. I want to see where this goes. Massive gameplay improvements in terms of parkour, traversal, open world, and combat. It's also responsible for giving us the best protagonist and theme in the whole series. The story is gripping, emotional, and epic. It's what every Assassin's Creed game should strive to be. It's the standard for the series, in my opinion. If anyone ever says Assassin's Creed or even Ubisoft, the first thing that comes to my mind is AC2 and Ezio Auditore. Y'all remember that title card? I don't think I've ever had more chills with an AC game than this scene. The final entry in the Ezio trilogy, and boy, if it wasn't epic. Getting to play as not only Ezio for the final time, but also as Desmond in what I find to be the best and probably the only good modern day story, but also as Altair during those banger flashback sequences. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan, you'll love this. The narrative is as gripping as ever, and I really enjoyed uncovering the keys for the library Altair built in Masyaf. The revelations scene and the ending is just a perfect conclusion to Ezio's story. Getting to play as an old man Ezio was exciting, but also sad, as you know he was getting old and that this would be the final time playing as him. And I don't know what others' thoughts are on that, but I fucking loved the hook blade. Black Flag is not only my favorite AC game, it's one of my favorite games of all time, period. I was in doubt that it was just because of nostalgia, but I recently replayed it like last year. And no, it's not just nostalgia. Black Flag is art. It's an experience like a few other games for me. From its vibey and vivid setting of the Caribbean islands to its mature and emotional roller coaster of a story, it has everything that a video game needs to be to make you feel all kinds of emotion. Just sailing across from Havana to Cape Bonavista, singing Leave Her Johnny with your shipmates, wrecking some Scarboroughs on the way, that is an experience unlike any other. It has a cast of memorable and likable characters with Mary Reid, Anne Bonny, Blackbeard, Charles Wayne, Edwille, and the protagonist Edward Kenway. When you play this game, you see how Edward matures and realizes his past mistakes as the story progresses. It's not a story of redemption, but it's one of realization. The ending perfectly concludes that story, and I think the ending of this game is one of the most perfect video game scenes ever directed. Edward looking back at the table and imagining all the friends and enemies he lost as Anne sang the parting glass and the ship with Edward's daughter arrived at the port. I would be lying if I said that didn't make me emotional. And it's not just the story in terms of Edward's character arc and how emotional the whole narrative is. I also love how perfectly it blends the assassin Templar conflict with Edward's journey here. It's just really great in every single way, and it's not just a perfect Assassin's Creed game for me, it's a perfect video game. So yeah, that's it. Those were all of the AC games ranked in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments which are your favorite Assassin's Creed games and protagonists. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. That would really help me out. Now it's going to be interesting seeing what AC Shadows has in store for us. I think we're gonna be seeing some gameplay really soon at the Ubisoft Forward in a few weeks. So let me know what you thought about its trailer and if you're excited or not.
The parting glass.